It is the Friday night. We are in the Monroe. We are brought to you in association with Erdinger, and it looks crisp as anything on a warm, humid day out there. So I'm going to enjoy this beer, and hopefully the other boys are going to do more of the talking. So I can just sit here and enjoy it. And luckily I've got some great talkers. I've got Joel Richards, international man, I don't know all that. Here, there and everywhere, but here in Liverpool, we're delighted. Damien Kavanagh sometimes gets up to the lakes.
Sometimes, yeah. When Liverpool are away.
And Kev Walsh has done a big few weeks in...
everywhere in the world, basically.
Went to a little fishing village in Spain called Benidorm.
Well, I definitely could not do a few weeks in Benidorm, just to confirm. If I ever get the terminal news, I'll spend my last few weeks in Benidorm. Any time I spend more than 5 days in Benidorm would be terminal.
Absolutely. But listen, we're all having a good summer, aren't we? Because the Reds keep buying players, we're adding to what we've got, and everyone's feeling good. And you can tell, Damien, when things are going well, because people are a little bit more likely to talk. I always find you can get the chairman of Liverpool on the phone to do an interview. When it's going well, he's probably less likely to do it when it isn't. But listen, I'd rather you doing well, and everyone can talk all they want. And he's done an interview with Paul Gorston, and fair play to Gorsty for getting the scoop on that. And it's a wide-ranging interview, quite interesting for anyone who's not read it. But he talks a lot about the last 18 months, and he talks a lot about the transition really from Jürgen to Arne Slot. And so I think it's always worth just sort of reflecting on that whole period, because he goes into a little bit more detail on, you know, the process and also what it has taken out of Jürgen. And he talks about him, you know, being gutted, but also feeling for his friend. And it's a reminder a lot that these people are human beings in all this, and we look at them as, you know, the chairman of Liverpool, or the billionaire John Henry, or the millionaire footballers, but they are all humans, and they're dealing with each other, and that human element we can't forget.
Yeah, defo. So Jürgen going was, you know, a massive blow, wasn't it? It's like almost a Kennedy moment. Everyone remembers where they were when it was announced, and you wonder what on earth could Liverpool do on the other side with a manager who gave us so much. And in that interview he gave when he was on his way out, you could see he was absolutely spent. And my good lady was watching that interview on the telly with us, and she's not really interested in the footy, and she's like, does he always ramble like this? You know what I mean? I was like, no, not really, no.
So she doesn't listen to the Anfield Wrap.
He's so
and I thought she'd be used to it with myself, like, you know, but you know, you could see, I think, you know, the way Jürgen was, I said it on a couple of occasions, I think Jürgen was the sort of fella, and he can be as naive as you like. I thought he would only truly consider himself a success if there was a success that followed him immediately. That's the true measure of success. And I think Jürgen is that honourable and that type of a fella. That's the way it came across to me. I never met him, but that's the way it all, from what I can gather, that's how it all looked to me. And if you've got supporting Liverpool's hard enough. But when you've got to manage and be responsible, and Liverpool being such a manager's club, and the way you're supposed to like embody it, and you know, when people are looking for you for political analysis or moral standpoints and all that, as well as not just winning, but winning in a certain style, with the competitors that we've got who have different advantages over us, it's like all consuming. You wonder how someone could do a year, and they just don't get any time off. They just don't. And so it's gonna wipe someone out in the end. And so this is a huge statement of not only to the owners, the people who run Liverpool Football Club, get the right man, and so much the right man that when we signed him, our rivals were silent. They were all jealous. They all wanted him, and we got him. But to prepare a football team to be as successful without the main man, now that really does tell you that if anyone's got any brains who are looking at Liverpool as a rival and they're not jealous, they want to enjoy sport and they want to enjoy learning in the process. What the club have done here, FSG, what they've done to put something in place where they say we're going to have this structure where the manager is so important and so integral. But what we can do is we can replace him with someone else who pretty much 90% of your fan base haven't heard of until last week, and then go on and do even more. I don't think the ownership of this club get enough credit. I am not their biggest champion. They have done things I completely disagree with.
He feels like he's beating me here, John.
I am, yeah. You know, and I'm one of the few people who can get away with it. But you know, I disagree with loads of stuff that they've done, and the stuff that's come out this week over the friends and family stuff, the ticket stuff, all that sort of thing, and things that's gone on which I completely disagree with, and I rightly be angry. But okay, so yeah, I get that. But with regard to running a successful football team, I think they've learned from lessons past. They didn't build from a position of strength when they won the league 5 years ago. Now, there might have been good reasons or bad reasons for that. I think there were more bad reasons than good. And I think they've looked at that and thought, if we ever get in that position again, and we've got an opportunity, then we're going to cash in. And life is about learning from your journey and learning from mistakes that you might have made. So I do think they made one at the time, and I think they're cashing in now.
I wondered, when I'm reading this and he's talking about Jürgen and how he took its toll on him, and listen, part of that was Jürgen's fault himself, how much he sort of took on and things like that, but I'm reading it thinking, like, this isn't just like maybe the last Liverpool manager will have like that, but maybe the last manager of any big club, because he, you know, we might look back in 20 years and say that Jürgen was the last fella who did as much as that.
Completely agree with that.
Because with the pressures on, especially the club the size of Liverpool, and you know, Tom Werner talks in it like he basically get up, go to work, and then work all day, drive home and go to sleep, and that was sort of all he did. And you can only last so long. It's a miracle he lasted as long as he did, really. And I just wonder whether, like, football is going to start, well, it already has started, and the idea of someone like Jürgen Klopp, this talisman, at a big football club like Liverpool, like, we might not ever see it again.
I'm a little bit sceptical about that, I think, because if you look at Jürgen when he first came in, he was at pains to say all the time, I don't know everything, but I can get the people in who know the things that I don't know, and I will use them, and I will listen to what they've got to say. And I think, listen, I think if you're going to be successful at a club like Liverpool, you've got to give a part of your soul. That's the payoff. Shankly did it and he left, and probably felt betrayed for the rest of his life by the club, if we're being totally honest about it. Kenny left and then was left under the cloud of Hillsborough, but then wanted to come back and the club didn't let him come back. And I imagine there's probably still a part of Kenny, although obviously he's the talisman that we all love and he's come back since, but he left a part of himself there, and there's no doubt that Jürgen Klopp had to sacrifice a part of himself, and I just don't see.
That's before we even get on to Julia.
But like Benitez he's almost like Batman, isn't he? He's the hero that Gotham didn't know it wanted. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Old Jordan didn't know it needed. Because there was fellas on the cop after we just won a European Cup, when we'd been terrible for years, calling him a fat Spanish waiter. So to be successful, don't get Roy Hodge doesn't give any of his soul, by the way. He's got all of his soul. He's got soul to spare him, mate. He's got the hero streets every day morning. He goes to sound this. No, it's what the fuss is about. But I just don't see a world where, if you're Liverpool Football Club, listen, Man City are nowhere near the size of the club that we are. That's not to say that they're not as good as us in terms of football, but it's a totally different animal. But you can see that Pep Guardiola gives so much of himself to maintain, to get to the success first. But then I think getting there is one thing. I think it's the maintenance of that success that really takes it out of people, because it's every single day, and it's the same thing probably over and over and over again. But the day that you don't do that is the 2% that you drop, where you lose the league by a point or whatever it might be. So I'd like to think that hopefully Arne Slot can go to Hope Street Hotel and have his tea, and have a little bevy in Concert Square, do you know what I mean? But I doubt it. And I think by the time he leaves, he's as bald as you'll ever see now. He's as bald as I am. He's going to have even less hair by then. But that will be the case, hopefully. It'll be the case either way, I suppose. It'll be the case because it hasn't quite gone as well as it could have done. Like we've reached the peak now, which I don't think anybody thinks that we have. Or he's driven us on to greater heights and greater heights and greater heights. And I just don't feel to be a team like Liverpool, there's only 4 or 5 of them in the whole world. Like, literally, out of all the 8 or 9 billion people in the world, there's 5 or 6 teams like Liverpool. To be the leader of that, and the club tried, didn't he, last year when he was announced he was the head coach? Has anyone ever heard him called the head coach since? He's the manager, isn't he? That's because we need the manager. We, as the 4 people sitting around this room and the million people around the world who love Liverpool, we need a manager. We don't want a head coach. We don't want Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah to be the ones that we love the most. We want to love them and we want to adore them, but we want somebody to tell us that it's going to be all right when it's not all right, and we want someone to tell us to behave ourselves when we're carrying on woeful, which is why I've got you Swan in me. But that's what Arne Slot's going to have to do. And he's the man for it, by the way, because he's cool, calm and collected. But I'm telling you now, when he leaves Liverpool Football Club one way or another, we'll own a piece of his soul. There's no way he's getting out without that, because if he does, he hasn't done enough. And there's no way he's the fella who's going to let that happen.
Yeah, that's all fair, and I think maybe what we need then is the football clubs to try and protect these lunatics from themselves. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's where
Protect them from these lunatics.
it's a big
all consuming lunatics.
yeah. So protect them from us definitely, but also from themselves a bit, and just get as confident as possible people around him, because that was sort of Jurgen's issue towards the end. Like Kev said, he come in with all the best intentions in the world, but then like one by one he was just like, I'm not sure about this fella, and well, I'll do that as well, do you know what I mean? And so I think that's why it is so important to have such a good structure around him, with people who the manager, and he is the manager, Kev's right, the manager sort of trust to do a good job, and those appointments were maybe the biggest ones, you know, under FSG, you know, after sort of Jurgen Klopp, getting all that right, because they needed to be people for when the manager come in who we could trust to get on with it.
Yeah, definitely. And as we sit here now, all of those appointments have been justified in terms of, you know, as Kev has said, look, he's head coach on paper, but into the eyes and ears of all of us as Liverpool fans, we naturally just go, the manager. Like, every time I listen to an Anfield Wrap podcast, the manager said this, the manager's done that. So in our minds, he's still a manager, but obviously on paper, he's head coach, because you've got your Richard Hughes, your sporting director, then you've got, say, I'm trying to think now who's under him. Say like he's got an assistant sporting director as a David Wolfine, and then he's
Julian Ward's nothing about still, is he?
I think Ward is part of the FSG hierarchy with Michael Edwards, if that makes sense. So like say where Michael Edwards is the FSG head of football, is it, or FSG CEO football? I think Julian Ward is his assistant, I might be wrong. But then you've got a couple of other fellas under them. One of them weirdly is head of goalkeeping for FSG, even though like not head of goalkeeping for Liverpool. And then
Taffarel's like, don't worry about it.
Taffarel's like, he's like having away with Taffarel, or this is why Mamardashvili was getting brought in, and then this pesky fella who's coming in the summer as well. And then you've got a Portuguese guy who worked for Benfica, I think his name's Pedro Marques or something like that. So these fellas are all working underneath Edwards, and then in turn, like the lower down the food chain, once you get to Liverpool, is obviously Richard Hughes, David Wolfine, I think I said. Then obviously, I think there's...
You say obviously, I haven't known a name.
But then, honestly,
Taffarel's the only one I knew.
But then you've got so the people in
Joel knows.
I like to think I know.
You know what you do?
I like to.
Stop saying obviously, I presume you talk to 5-year-olds.
Your position's not for that fella. Right, so you've got Slot, and then you've got all the people that are in the positions around him that had obviously evaporated under Klopp. So when there was a turbulent period where there was about 3 or 4 sporting directors in the space of 12 to 18 months, when it was firstly Michael Edwards left, then we had Julian Ward, and Julian Ward was barely 6 months into the role, and then he packed it in. Then Klopp's phoning a fella who's got a holiday home in Ibiza saying, can you do transfers from Ibiza while, you know, I'm trying to sort a new midfield out in Yorkshire. And then he turns around in the January that Klopp's off. I think it was on the same day Klopp was going, he goes, oh yeah, I'm getting off as well. Like just trying to, like, you know, brushing under the carpet, as it were. So there was a lot of turbulence behind the scenes, and then even as you've alluded to, Klopp maybe not necessarily trusting certain other departments, like the fitness departments, or like the head of rehab or physio and doctors, or, you know, even like maybe, I don't know, I'm just guessing, maybe, you know, maybe down to the nutrition or whatever else, where Klopp has got to this point where he feels like that manager in the workplace who ends up, instead of delegating tasks to people because he can't trust the staff, he takes it all on, and then that's what burns him out. So it's in another world, had Klopp not, I don't know what went on with Michael Edwards and Klopp, but if there's another world where it was all harmonious and it all carried on, the ship kept on sailing, Klopp might still be here, and we'd be looking at a decade of Klopp. But you mentioned Guardiola before. There was a school of thought that come the end of the current season, he looked like he was going to quit. Yeah. That, you know, all this scratching his head. It wouldn't
surprise me if November, December time you're here, this is my last year, and he didn't want to do it last year because what you said before about Jurgen was he wanted to leave a legacy, because that's the true measure of success. Yeah. So if Guardiola had gone this
it's why people still talk about Shankly and don't mention Paisley and took the team on.
There you go. So I think Guardiola might have that in his mind, because he looks like a broken man sometimes, doesn't he? But he's renewed his backroom staff. Maybe Pep Linder's letting us down a little bit, but we'll let him off for it. But so I think Guardiola might have that same type of thing this year, where 12, 18 games into the season, whatever he goes,
by the way, this is my last hurrah and this is what I want to leave him. Maybe that's why he's doing so much business now, and maybe that's why Iraola didn't go to Tottenham, and just there's a lot of moving parts in that. But I think that's what managers want now. For a man like Klopp and a man like Guardiola want to leave it and say, well, okay, I was a success, but also I left the club with a great legacy.
I think so, yeah. I think Jürgen wanted to go a year earlier than he did.
Sorry, Joel, I killed you off there, lad, didn't I?
It's all right. I think I think maybe that was possibly correct. That maybe Klopp might have gone, in 2023 after we finished fifth, but
he wasn't going to go.
Yeah,
in the UEFA.
Yeah, but and to go back to Guardiola, I know we're talking about Liverpool, but I just want to make this point because it's either he's going to go down the Fergie route where Fergie regularly changed his backroom staff at Man United, or is he going to go down the Rodgers route of where Rodgers bombs all Colin Pascoe, Mike Marsh, and then he gets in Sean O'Driscoll and Gary Mack, and then he doesn't last.
Don't make you skink all that, don't it? Especially
that honestly, but I think yeah, it's very interesting to see how all these parts play, and even at City, they've just got a new sporting director as well, haven't they? So it's looking at the different clubs, and now we're looking to get it back onto Liverpool. So where we are at the moment, it all looks good, and fingers crossed, touch wood, it stays that way. But even there was a point in the article with Tom Werner, wasn't it, that he believes that we talk about people around the world. He's talking that he thinks we've got as many as 1 billion fans around the world. Which you're talking about that top bracket of 5 or 6 clubs. The fact that we now see ourselves in that elite position is testament to the work that Klopp did, and obviously that FSG have done in terms of bringing Klopp in and then recognising that when he left we needed to get a successor in who fitted the moulds of him to a degree in terms of playing style and philosophy, and so far that appears to be the case.
Yeah, and it took such a long time for Liverpool to get into the position that I currently see us in since the start of the Premier League, when all the money counted for the first time. We just fell off our pitch, unilaterally just went. It took us a long time, and then you look at, whichever way you want to talk about it, but if you look at the teams, everyone moans about the people who can outspend them and don't have any sympathy for the people who they can outspend. So but if you look at Liverpool's direct rivals and what they can do, they can afford to make a few mistakes in the transfer market, millions and millions of pounds. They can make that mistake and mitigate it. But if Liverpool are going to beat those teams, they really, it's like one in 2 or 3 windows.
I feel like we might be coming away from that, the way you were splashing it now. I think we might be feeling
this
a
is the gamble,
more confidence.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they've looked at, put the rules aside, just put good practice aside. Could talk about that. So, for example, whatever Chelsea want to do, if that means that if they make a number of mistakes, they're going to be absolutely up against it and financially constrained in 3 years from now, Liverpool have gone, well, we're not asked, we'll finish second this year, we'll finish third this year, because in the long run, so they've made such an approach to this that's given them the chance to, splash the cash. It looks as though they've got another player in them. It looks that way. I think it's an enormous credit, to change a manager like that, and it's not built around the traditional manager, but to run the whole organisation in that way with such foresight. And again, I go back to it, I don't love them, they've made a lot of mistakes, but equally I've got a lot of respect for what they've done. But to manage the club in that way, to keep it sustainable and not buckle under pressure, and not just take one signing too many, and just be strategic for that long-term thing. It's not half paying off. And I really can't think, and whether Liverpool do go on and win the league next year or the year after or whatever, I can't remember Liverpool being in what appears to be such a brilliant financial state, having just conquered the league and then outspending their rivals. I can't remember that happening for a very, very, very long time.
We're going to try and remember, if it has happened before, talk a little bit more about the size of Liverpool Football Club, as Joel's just talked about. But here is a couple of words from our partners, Erdinger. I just want to pick up on your point, Joel, about the size of the fan base, because I think that's something that's really hit home for the owners. The longer that they've had the club, really, and they talk about 1 billion fans, and I think you said before, you worked abroad, lived in different countries and stuff like that. I've done a lot of travelling with Liverpool. We've all been to sort of different places and seen the level of support, but I think for me, what sets Liverpool's apart is how all in they are, and it's that passion. And you know, Real Madrid maybe talk about their like global fan base and stuff like that, but for me, it doesn't seem as real and it doesn't seem as legitimate. And you can talk about likes on Facebook and you can talk about, you know, following Vinicius Junior or Bellingham and throw all that in together. But I think what sets Liverpool's apart is once they decide on Liverpool or pick Liverpool or Liverpool picks them or whatever it is that happens, they go all in, and from a point of view of their enjoyment it's more, but for the point of view of the club, like it just feels a lot more of a tangible thing.
Yeah, I think it does, and even Man United were at it a few years back. So when I first saw that headline I was thinking, oh, I hope we're not going down the Man United route. But when I look at it, I think, okay, well, obviously they've got to have a bit of gusto and a bit of bravado about them, because look, we're Premier League champions and we've had the most social engagements out of anything. So last year it was we spoke off camera, a couple of us, about, you know, the Klopp's final game. Liverpool had nothing riding on it, but it was Klopp's final game, and it probably got more views than Man City winning the league against West Ham on Sky. You know, for example. And then you've got, every time, say, a big news story happens around Liverpool, whether it's Klopp announcing he's leaving, whether it's Liverpool signing Florian Wirtz, whether it's Liverpool announcing a record-breaking shirt sponsorship deal with, say, Adidas, which is going to kick in soon, or, you know, anything to do with Salah and Van Dijk signing new contracts, the engagement around it is always, it was massive. It's absolutely massive. And that is why you can sort of understand the club believing that, well, we've got as many as 1 billion fans. Because I remember when I previously worked for the club in another life, it feels like now that, I think it was at the time, what did they say? I don't know whether it was Ian Eyre or even Tom Werner again himself. I think even back then it was they were boasting similar numbers. I don't think it was on the 1 billion mark, but I think it was like around, like, let's say 3/4 of 1 billion, or it was above 500 million, put it that way. So now, I think there's a lot of factors at hand in why they believe it's at the 1 billion. So from my own experience of working in the Middle East, even though Real Madrid and Barcelona are still the two most popular clubs in that region, there has been a lot of gravitational pull to Liverpool because of one man and one man only, and that's Mo Salah. Because he's the biggest Arabic personality in the world. Even like he transcends sports for me, like that, and knowing them, and even like Egyptian people who I've lived and worked alongside, he is God. He is their God. And a lot of it, even like if you just focus on Egypt and then you focus on the Middle East, that pulls it. That's a region that can pull in hundreds of millions of fans alone, even if they're not passionate Liverpool fans, but they say they are a Liverpool fan because of Mo Salah. That's every time you say to someone, you're from Liverpool, you support Liverpool, the first person he mentions is Mo Salah. And that's been a lot of it. When he joins, we weren't at that stage, because in 2017 we'd only just got back in the Champions League. So that was, funny enough, my first year abroad. And at that time, people knew of Liverpool, or like the Arabs knew of Liverpool, but weren't interested because of, well, we only finished fourth at times, I'd say, but like we only finished fourth, and it was, you know, Real Madrid, Barca, Messi and Ronaldo, and then from a Premier League point of view, there was a lot of pull towards Manchester City. But since 2017, I've noticed in my new local that more and more interest snowballed into Liverpool because of Salah's exploits, because the trophies that followed, and then all the little bits that come with it. Because once they start supporting Liverpool, as you said, John, it's everything else around it. Oh wow, they've got this song, You'll Never Walk Alone. Wow, the fans are brilliant. They always back the team. They never turn on them or whatever. And then, oh, but wait, here's Van Dijk, here's Alisson, here's the manager. God, this manager looks like a load of fun. Running up and down the touchline and displaying his
getting in his face off.
Getting in his face. And
he was a load of fun.
And what was very fortunate for me living abroad was that they came to my adopted hometown to win the Club World Cup. So that week they were there, it was amazing. And I'd even go as far to say it was my favourite ever week living there, because
you get the bus home.
Because you got the bus. It was like, honestly, it was like driving from the old house in Kenny up to Anfield to get to the stadium where Liverpool played. That's what it was like. I was only a couple of stops on the train, or you know, driving, it'd take me 15-20 minutes. But that week, again, further cemented, you know, more fans in the region, because Liverpool are coming to the town, they're the Champions League, they're the European champions, and they're going to win the cup. Well, let's face it, we expected to win the Club World Cup, and we did. And again, more fans followed as a result. And it's not even just like with Arabs who support Liverpool, other expats from different countries like start saying, oh yeah, you've got a good team, you've got a brilliant team, because us, the way we are as local people, and you've probably witnessed on pre-season tours that you've been on, you go in there and you feel like you're representing the city yourself, because they go, where are you from? And you're saying, Liverpool. Like, I never say UK, even like for 8 years there, I've said Liverpool first. And then
everyone can guess, Joel, don't worry.
No, here's the thing, Damien, right? For 8 years, not one, I've still not managed to slow down my accent, and people still cannot understand me, and that goes for the British expats as much as the foreigners. But that's the thing, you're going here as you're treating it as a badge of honour, and even like the older generations before you have felt that way, because it's Liverpool. And even if people go, Liverpool, like they don't know, but you have to say England, but you start with Liverpool because someone somewhere is going to go, oh, the football team, oh, Klopp, oh, Salah, oh, Van Dijk, or whoever, you know, or oh, you guys won the champions, you're the Premier League champions. So you can sort of understand people now thinking, oh, they seem a great fun, especially if we represent the city well and show us off to be the best that we can be. We'll show the city off, and then they go, I like them, they seem loads of fun. I'll give that a go and see what the fuss is all about. And even if they just become casual fans, at least if someone says to them in America, oh, have you got a team in the Premier League? And they go, oh, well, follow Liverpool.
Once you're hooked in, no, you never get away, do you?
No, we're all in, aren't we?
Yeah. I wonder if that's part of Liverpool's, and just listening to you talking about the way, obviously Moby and the world superstar at the moment, and you know, you're talking about Ronaldo and Messi. And Liverpool's always been, it's very much a team game, and we haven't gone down the Galacticos thing, and we've never really had a player.
I feel like sometimes other fans will listen to us and go, you're taking the piss, you signed the world record centre-half, the world record goalie, we just spent 125 million on weights.
Yeah, but it's nothing like what Man United have been signed recently, is it?
No,
like
true,
what
yeah,
Real Madrid are famous for. And it's sort of Liverpool will be much, and while Liverpool have signed very expensive players, it's been very much fitting into a team thing.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about, while not moving away from that, I wonder if there's a little bit of a plus sign in the checklist where they're looking at someone to say, well, if Vert is going to be the next big superstar, and the superstar themselves attracts fans, and that attracts shirts, and that attracts this and that, if they had a choice between a couple of players who cost a certain amount of money, and they could say, well, either of these would be sound, but this Vert lad's going to be the next big thing, does that attract international fans in neutrals? You know, when you watch this wonder kid, you know, when he's playing for Deutschland and he's going to be doing great things or whatever, and he's the next big star in the Premier League, not just from he fits into the team and isn't he a great player, but is this the sort of also, and it doesn't detract from that at all, but very marketable and attracts international fans and that sort of thing. And I think that must be, and that's where Liverpool should be going, because if you've got to keep expanding and keep going bigger and bigger, because otherwise someone else will do it.
And it's, well, brought this in, the reason I brought sort of this in, and Joe spoke really well on it there, is the idea of acting like the biggest club in the world. And it's all well and good doing an interview saying you're the biggest club in the world, but what you want is actually Liverpool to act like it, and we have done this summer, and that's brilliant. And whether it's realising there's a lot to be said for having one of the best players in the world like Mo Salah, you know, for a variety of reasons, not least what he does on the pitch, whether it's learning from last time, and did we strike while the iron was hot was enough. There was obviously the COVID situation as well that would have, you know, informed that a little bit, but or whether it's just that realisation that fucking hell, we've got more fans than anyone, and we want to be sort of making the most of it. Whatever it is, I'm almost not that bothered, because if it brings us these brilliant players, then...
So you've just nailed it there. Whatever it is, I'm not that bothered. So my criticism of FSG, and I've been vehement in it over the years, and listen, all I've ever wanted them to do is act like they're acting now. So when they're acting like this now, I'm not going to sit here and go, but I took FSG a shit, so I still think, listen, if FSG act like this for the rest of their tenure in charge of Liverpool Football Club, they're the great stones in world football. That's not just because, by the way, that they're buying loads of players. Like Cavs just said there, it's not about buying loads of players. Man United trying to buy loads of players, and it's not about buying expensive players, because Man United are buying expensive players, but buying the right players at the right time. Yeah. So my issue has always been that now everybody is on board. We're one of the biggest clubs in the world. I've been saying that since the day that I was born. And some of it's bravado when you're a kid, because we weren't.
Yeah.
But we always were, because when we win something, or when we lose something, when we lost the European Cup final of the year in Paris, we had a bigger parade than any other club has ever had in this country for losing it. I know we'd won the two cups in earlier on, but my bugbear with FSG has always been that they did not treat us like what I was saying before. One of the, I said 4 5 and 6 before, it's bullshit really, but one of the 2 to 3 biggest clubs in the world. There's an argument that Real Madrid are bigger than us, and I wouldn't disagree with anybody who said it. No problem with that. But if you tried to tell me Barcelona are bigger than Liverpool, I'm not having that. I'm not having it. Man United are bigger than Liverpool. I'm not having it. I think it's exhausted.
If it's going off European Cups alone, then that argument weighs true, because we've won one more than Barcelona twice when he's United.
But European Cups, English football championships, worldwide fan base. Listen, I've got no doubt that Barcelona's got a huge worldwide fan base. That's great. That sounds. If someone sat here and argued with me that they were the second biggest club, I think I'd go back and say that Liverpool are. No one in the world is telling me that Man United are a bigger football club than Liverpool. No one in the world is telling me that Bayern Munich are a bigger football club than Liverpool. And if you're not in Europe, unfortunately, Boca Juniors, River Plate, all them unbelievable football clubs, they're not the biggest in the world. They're the biggest in where they're from, and they are unbelievable football clubs. I'm not denigrating them in any way. Liverpool Football Club has always been one of the top 3 clubs in the world. And for so long, I felt like we acted like we were some sort of minnow up against, up against Man City, who were throwing money about. And I understand that you've got to be strategic to a certain extent. But when we were winning European Cups or leagues and they're not doing what it felt like it was so obvious to do, that was my criticism. So for all the criticism I've given FSG, I'll give them all the plaudits now. When we won the league last year, I thought to myself, please, because we knew obviously after losing Jürgen, there was a chance of a drop. When it didn't happen, I just thought, please, realise what you've got here. You've got a base mark that is so. There's the rest of the clubs, there's yours. You've got that base mark to jump off on, and they've done that. So there can be no criticism of them now. And if we keep acting like this, the only reason that Real Madrid are the biggest football club in the world, because when we were, well, you're a little bit young, but when we were kids, and certainly you're a little bit older than me, Real Madrid in the European Cup, they were good when your granddad was a kid.
Yeah,
they were the way they won the first 6 or whatever. They didn't win a European Cup for something like 15 years. And they weren't...
No, even longer, Cav. Like, it took them over 30 years. Sorry, I'm cutting in now, because I want to expand on that point. So, they went for over 30 years without winning the European Cup from, say, I think it was 66 till 98, right? So, as I was growing up...
From 98,
so,
I
was in the 90s.
That was the Galacticos period.
I was only 6-7 years old when they started winning European Cups again. But from when we won the Champions League in 05 in Istanbul, right, Real Madrid went nearly 10 years, I think it was, or they went a long time, only getting past the round of 16. They didn't get as far as that because one year we battered them in 2009.
That is right. So the way that nobody in their right mind could argue that they haven't won the European Cup for the last 20 years, whatever it may be. I don't know the exact time frames. Nobody could argue with that. But the reason that they're the #1 club in the world right now, and they are, we've just lost sense to them. And listen, I hope he goes on to regret that decision for every waking moment of his life. I really do. But I can understand why the pull of the biggest club in the world has come and took him out of this club. The reason that they are the biggest club in the world is because of that Galacticos era you just mentioned, where they went, well, Real Madrid, let's go and do it. And listen, they've got different financial backing than we've got. And obviously there's a lot more rules around that type of thing now. But it's not beyond the realms of fancy, and this sounds crazy to say it out loud now. But there's nothing to say that in 20 years' time, we haven't caught up and matched their number of European Cups.
We're taking players off them.
But genuinely, so at the moment you'd sit here and go, it's impossible for Real Madrid not to be the biggest club in the world. It's impossible now because of the football landscape that we find ourselves in. Liverpool are disruptors of that football landscape at the moment because we are we're unbelievable. PSG are good. They'll never get there because of how they've done it, where the club was formed. They're a Man City version of football. There's the big boys and there's the rest. If Liverpool continue to act like we're acting now and go and win another league next year, a European Cup after it, honestly, like for years I never thought I'd see us win a European Cup. I've seen us win 2. There's nothing to stop Liverpool if we do it with all the right intentions and do it with all the right backing, which it looks like FSG are going to do now, and I'm happy to give that credit. No one in the world wants FSG to be boss owners more than I do, because boss owners, FSG being boss owners means I get to go and watch Liverpool win the league and win the European Cup. That's all I want. I'm not bothered about the youngs. They can do whatever they want, win us them trophies. If Liverpool win 3 European Cups in the next 4 years, 5 years, which is not beyond the realms of fancy with the team that we've got, there's no chance on God's green earth that Real Madrid aren't thinking, shit, they're coming for us here. And that's exactly how I have always wanted Liverpool to act. And it's so refreshing, and it's so enjoyable, and more importantly, it's so exciting to feel like that's what we're finally trying to do.
Well, it keeps us quiet.
I can't go on now, by the way. Someone ring me bird.
So someone might watch that and look at Kev there and say he's wild and it's this and that and the other. But that is exactly the ambition that Liverpool have to show.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
And that's what he's talking about, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? So like, okay, so you might say, he's taking it for granted, he's getting carried away. You know, the Erdinger's going down well.
Hey, if people
He's definitely had a Guinness before he
people
started.
watch and think that's Kev getting carried away, lads.
No, the sentiment behind what you're saying is the way Liverpool should be aiming and should be acting. And that thirst for the fan base that's what we should be looking at and looking for. And that's the duty that is on the current custodians of the ownership of Liverpool, because that's all that they are.
Yeah.
And the boss job that they're doing.
And I think as well, like even just in terms of popularity things, like that very quickly, is, you know, if you just look at it on a domestic level, in the UK, when it comes to the TV picks, like let's face it now, as we sit here, we know for a fact Liverpool are going to be on live telly for Premier League games about, let's say, 30 or 31 times next season. That's because between us and Man United, we're the only two teams who are the biggest show in time. Between the two of us, and even if you just focus on Liverpool entirely, we'll be on at least, no matter how our season goes, good or bad, we'll be on at least 30, 31 times next season because people want to watch Liverpool. Whether we're doing well and it's all going great, like as we were saying before the show, like, you know, to the point where they were saying that viewing figures fell because of the fact that the title race was done and dusted, but people still wanted to watch Liverpool. Whereas if conversely, if we're doing terrible like we were at, like, say for example, the audition days, we were still getting put on telly because it was, Liverpool, and like let's have a laugh at Liverpool tonight getting beat by Wolves on a cold Wednesday night in December.
There'll be as many people tuning in to watch us get beat as they are to watch
Hate watching pays for a TV corporation the same as someone who's tuning in to want us to win.
Yeah, and that's why, like, Liverpool, Man United, no matter where they are in the table, they'll always be talked about. And Liverpool, and just Liverpool itself again, you know, we'll always be in the conversation, no matter what, whether it carries on going well, touch wood it does, or not.
Liverpool, biggest club in the world. We'll have 4 more Erdingers to that. Up the Reds. Have a great weekend.